Good evening and welcome to Going for Two. This is the only YouTube podcast in Hugh in recorded history to feature a male and female host drinking our way through the important topics of the day, as long as they touch the football world and not in that way. Tonight, we're going to figure out what the Sam Hill's going on with the Ole Miss football program. We'll talk NFL training camp insanity, the Baltimore Ravens, and a professional franchise doing things right by their fan base. I am Zach Law, and this is Sharona XL. I suggest XBA for extra badass. It's August 2nd, 2017. Now, tonight I am drinking 2 beers that would get my ass kicked at most SEC tailgate parties. Incento, a lovely Italian plum
very
sour.
pretty can.
And Burial, this is from North Carolina. At least this isn't a southern beer. But this is a winnower. It's a porter with cocoa nibs and raspberries. Dessert beer. So we'd like to introduce our guest. Hi, Morgan. Welcome on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, tonight's guest is a bit of a crossover for me. I talked about Sharona's on hiatus show, Back Talk a lot, but I never talk about my own other show where I first, quote unquote, met tonight's guest, Morgan Stringer. The show's called the Sacrilege Cast, and I talk about not sports. And Morgan is a law student at the University of Mississippi, so she seemed to be the perfect person to suss out this whole Ole Miss, Houston Nutt, Hugh Freeze dealio. So Morgan also is the co-host of the Bi Skeptical podcast and the Beyond the Trailer Park YouTube/podcast show. She's leaving Mississippi as soon as she's able. Hi, welcome back. What kind of beverages you got going tonight?
PBR Tall Boys.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm broke right now.
That's going bad.
We've all been there, done that, Morgan.
Should share some
no question.
care packages to Mississippi.
Yeah, donate to the Patreon. I'll set up a Patreon. But
Your Patreon, yes.
Yeah, Ole Miss might set one up soon with all the nonsense going on. Hell.
I do want to say hi to Don, and Don asked me to find him some new coffee beers, so I got him on the right path. Don was a wine guy, now he's kind of making his way to beer. And Sharon, I hear you have a beverage. It's kind of a surprise.
I know. Morgan doesn't know this because this is her first time on, but I quit drinking like 3 or 4 months ago. But I had a little stash that I got rid of, and I've been completely without alcohol for about 6 weeks, somewhere around there. But this past weekend, as circumstances dictated, I ended up with a bottle of wine, one of my favorites. We had another death in the family that we won't talk about. But anyway, this is one of my favorite wines, and so there's a... Yeah, it's this. They've got several. This is their Silk, their soft red blend. It's really good. They've got a midnight and all different kinds. So, and I am drinking it in my lovely Game of Thrones glass that my buddy Zach got me. And Zach, are you impressed that I am all caught up with Game of Thrones? I was only 2 episodes behind.
I feel like you can't be behind on Game of Thrones. Like the last 2 weeks I've watched it like 30 minutes late, and I've had to just like everything social media has got to be shut down because this is one show where people just go nuts. I don't know, Morgan, if you watch Game of Thrones.
Yes, I do, obsessively. I am obsessed with that show, and yeah, I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll have to catch it late, and then it's just like, don't go on Twitter, stay away.
Yeah, you can.
But yeah, and also I'm used to binging shows on Netflix, like where I can just sit there and watch a season. So it's very frustrating that I'm having to revert to the olden days where I was having to watch a show once a week, like some kind of animal.
No, I'm the same way. And like last year, I got a bunch of episodes behind and would like ignore Zach, which I do anyway, but just like ignore him and not, because I knew that he'd be trying to spoil it for me and stuff. I mean, that's the great thing is that, so what other shows on Netflix do you watch?
Well, I just caught up with Orange is the New Black. And let's see, I always go back to Arrested Development just because it's hilarious. So I always go back to that one. And let's see, I've watched How to Get Away with Murder, which is nothing like law school, so it makes me laugh. And so I kind of hate watch it. And Yeah, that's all I can think of right now. I watch a lot of documentaries and like Disney movies when I want to feel like a child. So
Yeah. I watched on HBO now. I don't have cable, so I stream most everything on HBO now. And I didn't realize that at the end of this, well, yeah, we're in August. At the end of this month, that's the 20th anniversary of Princess Diana's death. And I was like, wow, it's been that long. And anyway, so last night I watched a documentary on her, and it was really good. It was from the son's perspective. And like on Netflix, and Zach knows this, I was devastated when they canceled Sense8. I was like, oh my God, they canceled my favorite show.
yeah, I never got into it, but a lot of people were very, very upset by that. And then that show, 13 Reasons Why, got renewed for another season, and I think that made them even angrier. Yeah, I never watched it because it just the whole premise sounded like garbage.
Yeah, it was bad. So, but they're going to do a 2-hour wrap-up finale. So,
that's good.
Yeah.
So, Sharona, do you want to share your probably not too out there theory about how things are going to go this season on Game of Thrones?
Oh, well, as everybody know, if you spoiler alert, if you've been watching, Cersei is now up 3-1 in the finals, and we all know how this is going to end because she's the most hated woman in the Empire, and Dany has dragons, and I don't care. I know that they've got that big huge slingshot that they're going to try to take them down, but my money is I still think that Dany and Jon Snow are going to get together, and they're going to unite everybody against Cersei because everybody hates her, and it's going to end. That's how. And then so they're going to save the kingdom and rule it together, and then they're going to go after the Night Walkers, the White Walkers. The Night King. Yeah.
The Night Walkers.
One of the first games I ever got into was Night Walkers. That's where that came from. Anyway.
I think Cersei's going to kill at least one dragon.
Do you think?
I think she's going to kill at least one with that thing.
I hope not.
Yeah, there's history on the show. The book people are like, yeah, way back when one of the, and I think that was Valeris talked about that, the one shot through the eye, and yeah, well, it's definitely set up like you can almost see the writers like thought process, like, okay, at the beginning of the season you're like, Dany's gonna roll, she's got this. It's like UT against Appalachian State last year to start the season. They were like, oh, so confident, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, we get our ass kicked. And then, they managed to rally, and I think the rally's going to happen. And they really want to do last season, focus on the whole White Walker people battle.
I'll have to say this, and, you got to give – they've set it – I think they've set it up really well. And you've got to give Jaime and Cersei credit. They planned well. I mean, that was some boss-level planning that they did. And it's going to be – I'm very curious to see how it – I'm literally cannot wait to see Cersei find out who actually killed her little monster.
Yeah,
Olenna. Yeah. She was like, we have a pour one out segment. I think Lady Olenna, the way she's like, she drank the wine, like, okay, it's already too late, can't do anything to me. Now it's coming out.
Wine like I drink wine.
And she didn't give up like any of her conspirators either. Yeah, well, everybody does that. Yeah, the whole Cersei like goblet. Yeah. I think it's like what was this? There was a meme that Morgan shared on Facebook.
Oh yeah, it was like
Amy Schumer drinking a glass of wine, but it was like a gallon size, and she's like, it's like that's the size of a goblet of wine. Cersei's like down at this point.
I also shared an Olenna meme that said, okay, I'm going to drink, but I'm not going to say anything too savage. And it says one drink later, and it's a picture of Olenna with her wine glass.
Yeah, I need to see that one. That's a good one. It was one of the best scenes I think they've ever done. And I always watch like the little after stuff, where the writers and stuff were talking about why they did some things. And they were talking about the scene in the beginning where Jon meets, Daenerys, and it was fascinating how that came about. And then they talked about the final scene with her and how fantastic she was. Now, she really did steal the scene, and it was like, I think both of those scenes, the first and the last, really were some of the best of this whole, and that's saying something because there's been a lot of good stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one thing the show does really well is they do kind of make you wait, because Jon and Tyrion like talked in season 1, and they haven't interacted since. So you had that reunion, and then you had the Dany and Jon, like they've never met, and everybody's like, "Oh boy, there's like a history there. They might be related."
And then Bran came back to Winterfell.
Yeah, Bran was like the spoiled like, teenager. Whatever. Let me tell you about the most traumatic thing of your life, and totally be a not human.
I think Arya's gonna kill Littlefinger.
Her throwing him like out the moon
Arya
would
may
be awesome.
end up ruling everything. I mean, who knows? Don't rule out Arya. I can't. Was it Nymeria or not? Because
it was. Yeah, and then when she said that's not you, she realized that it wasn't for her. It went back all the way to season 1 where her father was telling her she was going to marry some fancy lord and all this stuff, and she was like, "That's not me." And then when she was telling Nymeria, "Come back to Winterfell and be basically my pet again," and then she's like, "That's not you."
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense then. I was a little confused by that.
Maybe it's a way for the show to like nod to the book readers, because apparently in the books, like the direwolves are really big, and in the show they always push them aside, like, "Oh, the whole CGI for making a wolf look big, well, that's really expensive, so we're not going to do that."
Well, I've read the books, and I need to go back and reread them because I don't remember a reunion.
Some of the stuff, I mean, obviously some of the stuff in the show is past the books, and some might not be. I don't, it's. I only read one of them. It was just so long, and it actually was. Sometimes when a book's a little too like the movie or like the TV show, you're like, "Well, I've already seen this. I know what happens. I know there are more characters in the book. Obviously, it's kind of hard to believe, but yeah."
Oh, now it's gone completely away from the books because the books, like, they've ended, and they told, that's why they had to get the rights from George R.R. Martin, because they were like, "Look, buddy, we can't, like, go on hiatus for, like, 5 years," because the first Game of Thrones book came out in 1999, and he still hasn't even put out book 6, and there's supposed to be 7.
Yeah, there is apparently they're in the works from what I read, and I don't remember. There's even a tentative release date, I think.
Yeah, but there's been a tentative release date for there's been 8 different ones.
You're like, "No, I want to write the rest of the story myself." You're like, "How about some more cash?" "Okay, I might, be okay with this."
Yeah.
Well,
he saved some stories. Like, I think there's some spin-offs they're gonna do, and there's some that he wants to write instead or write before they do them. But HBO's just gonna cash in on this for a long time.
Oh yeah, for sure, because there's money to be made.
I mean, there's nothing like it. It is the last. I don't know if it's the last. People talk about the last water cooler show. Well, we'll see. But there are so many platforms now; it's hard for everybody to.
Yeah. It is a really, I think, really good show. I will say this though: at times it gets almost a little bit too the ship scenes, the fighting on the ships and stuff. That was almost a little bit too much for me. Sometimes it's like, am I gonna speed through this or whatever? But then in other times you're watching the scenes and you're like, "Oh my God, this is the best show ever," and it's crazy.
Yeah, they did the graphic death scenes, and then they have like some characters have died like off camera. So like, did they really die? And Lyanna like pretend like her whole life she was actually taking poison to make sure she wouldn't die, but no, it was set up for that to happen. So the one thing people have to watch live is, of course, Game of Thrones. But the other thing they have to watch live is SEC football. So Morgan, I don't even know. I feel like I should just let you go. Like this whole Ole Miss thing. I don't know if you want to just start at the top. Really, the whole Hugh Freeze, Houston Nutt situation, because you're there. You're in the inside. You get to hear all the stories and all the scuttlebutt and what's happening.
Yeah, so it's crazy, and basically, there's layers to it. So, I mean, I knew so crazy nonsense was happening before Houston Nutt had filed his lawsuit. Which Houston Nutt was the Ole Miss coach. He had gone to a few ball games, and before that he was the coach at Arkansas, as listeners may know. And ironically, though, when he was at Arkansas, he got in trouble related to a phone because they apparently found text messages between him and a local news anchor, and it was rumored he was having an affair and all this other stuff. Yeah, so Houston Nutt's one to talk. So he coached here, and he sucked so bad he broke the school record for most SEC losses in a row. So we were like, get the hell out of here. And we ended up having to pay his contract out. So basically, he's been paid to sit on his ass. But he was such a shitty football coach that nobody wants to hire him. And so what has happened in the meantime is Hugh Freeze is down here. And what he has done was he really built up the school, did really well with recruiting, went to really good bowl games. I mean, we beat Alabama twice. I mean, things were going well for us. And then I noticed things started to slide. And it first happened when I think one of the Kim Dichis fell out of a hotel window in Atlanta.
Right.
Because who among us has not had that experience in hot Atlanta?
When in Atlanta, yeah, that's what we do.
Magic City. But yeah, and then his brother did spice, which is that synthetic marijuana, got into a coma, and then he's fine now, but I don't think he can play football again. But obviously that affected their draft status, and then the Laramie Tunsil thing happened. So with Laramie Tunsil, that's that infamous video of him smoking out of the gas mask bong, and apparently it was his former financial manager who released the video, and he completely ruined his career over this, and he was just feeling petty because Laramie had fired him, and it really damaged his draft status. And I remember because Governor Chris Christie weighed in on it, and he was like, yeah, I would have had him arrested. And I was like, shut up, you fat ass.
Shut up, yeah.
And yeah, so this all started happening, and I was like,
Yeah, it did make things uncomfortable for him, but let's not forget, I mean, he was drafted in the top 15, so it's not like, I mean, he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, he was in an episode of, what is it, Ballers on HBO?
Yeah, I mean, just don't,
he's doing all right.
Stand up for the flag, buddy, but, it's okay to bong. I actually don't care if they smoke pot, as long as they...
I don't either. Everybody got on their moral high horse and clutched their pearls, and I was like, oh no, a college student smoked the wacky weed. Let's all get on our high horse now.
Go find your shocked face. My goodness,
Yeah, so then all these allegations are coming about the NCAA. And so what Hugh Freeze did was he said, oh, that wasn't me, that was Houston Nutt, and just threw him under the bus because everybody here hates Houston Nutt. So we were like, yeah, we hate that fucker. He did it, And Houston Nutt was like, no. And I'm sure it's a coincidence that we've nearly paid out his contract. But he filed a lawsuit against us, a defamation suit. And what happened was, meanwhile, a Mississippi State fan was working on some book because they're more concerned about what happens at Ole Miss than at their own damn school. It's the most insane thing. They got little brother syndrome so freaking bad. If you are living in Starkville or hate what I have to say, then fuck you. But so yeah, he was
Dak Prescott. Sorry,
records. Oh no, you're good. Yeah, Dak Prescott, overrated. But anyway, so he found through the phone records, and he was going through, these are calls made off of his university cell phone, so you could do they're open to the public. You can do a public information request. And so he got them, and he traced these numbers, and he found that one of them went to an escort service. That was the escort service was actually based in Tampa, but it was a Detroit number. But the call only lasted less than a minute. And it was somebody who works at the university told me that the phone number he dialed was one digit away from a recruit's number. So, I was like, okay, it's a butt dial. And I remember Yahoo News did. And I was like, okay, it's embarrassing and it's funny, but whatever. And then I hear he resigned. So I'm sitting there thinking, people don't resign over butt dials. And so that's when it all came out that the Mississippi State fan had found that number and gave it to Houston Nutt's lawyer, and Houston Nutt basically tried to blackmail Ole Miss into settling with him, and they said no, and he went ahead and released it to the media. And then the university, because of that phone call, they went through all of his phone records, and they found, how did they put it, a pattern of inappropriate conduct. And so that meant he was calling escorts, and they've interviewed Hugh Freeze since. And the thing is, he didn't say he was sorry or anybody.
Are we still here?
Oh yeah, I'm still here. Okay. So yeah, he didn't say he was sorry to the school, the fans, or anybody. He was just like, "Oh, my family stands with me." And I was like, so you don't have anything else to say? Like, I mean, we have Shea Patterson, probably the #1 quarterback in the nation. And, you know, I don't blame him if he transfers, because we've already done a self-imposed bowl ban because of his behavior. Oh, and also in this mess is a local store in Oxford called Rebel Rags is suing 2 Mississippi State football players because based on their allegations alone, they said, hey, this store gave us a bunch of free stuff. And then so what happened was Rebel Rags sued them for defamation and said, bitch, we got receipts. Like, yeah, so they're doing that. And then also it's coming out when they were actually started with investigating Dante Moncrief, who now plays for the Colts.
Right.
And it actually started in a really awful way. So somebody sent the NCAA a picture of him driving, I think it was a Challenger or a Charger. And so the NCAA assumed he can't afford that car because, you know, black people can't drive nice cars. And so they assumed that Ole Miss bought it for him. And he was like, no, this is my brother's. And it became this whole thing where the NCAA was trying to go to his bank and make them give up bank statements and information. And the bank employees were like, yeah, we can't do that. You know, we don't care who you are. You can't just walk in and be like, have you seen these people? And they also lied about saying that, oh, well, we know you were in, you know, somebody paid the car note at this time when you were, you know, on the coast. And they found out that the NCAA lied about the whole thing, but Moncrief didn't want to pursue the matter because he didn't want to affect his draft status at the time. So, yeah, and then this is
I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to interject and say I don't know of any shadier institutions than the NCAA and college football coaches. Please continue.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it came down to. They were being sketchy as hell, and they were even making his brother provide, like, pay stubs and everything. And then they found out he had a side business of cutting hair. And he was like, well, I don't understand how you're making all this money from cutting hair. You don't make all this money from cutting hair once a month. And he was like, darling, I cut black people's hair. Black people get their hair cut once a week. Like, you know, they don't get their hair cut once a month. Like, you know, and I do like 20 people's hair every week. And so that's how he was making all that money. And he also had a job doing like product resets at gas stations and things, like putting in new products and displays and things of that nature. And so, yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. They had to go through all this nonsense. And what happened was they had actually suspended Moncrief before the Alabama game. This is when we were supposed to go to Tuscaloosa. This is when we beat them the second time. But he was only suspended for 3 days because then they found out they had nothing. So there's this whole debacle. Oh, and then today, 2 Ole Miss players got arrested for robbery.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they stole over $173 worth of cleaning supplies from Walmart.
What?
That's a lot of cleaning supplies.
I know. I was trying to think. I was like, if somebody was like, here's $173, go get cleaning supplies. Like, after the 5th can of Febreze.
At Walmart, that's like 3 carts full of stuff.
I mean, at least get video games or something. I mean.
Yeah, and so, you know, oh, and then there's Laramie Tunsil with his ex-stepfather apparently was making a lot of allegations because he was salty that he basically what happened was he was hitting on Laramie's stepmother, and Laramie intervened, and obviously Laramie being a big old dude, you know, he fucked his stepdad up pretty good. And he, they pressed assault charges, all this stuff, and he sold the pictures to TMZ. It was this big debacle. And so he said, I'm going to get revenge, and I'm going to go snitch to the NCAA about some nonsense. They interviewed him at the McDonald's. And I was like, what the hell? Like, the story keeps getting weirder and weirder. And especially now that there's the Hugh Freeze, like, hanging out with hookers in Tampa, Florida, it's like, what is happening?
That's where the Outback Bowl is. That's good, right? Is that called the Outback Bowl? I don't remember. Bowl games are confusing.
The NobodyCares.com Bowl. But we can't even go to that one.
Missouri hopes they get to that one this year. The Poulon Weed Eater Bowl. It's one of my favorites.
We get to go to no bowls because Hugh Freeze is dumbass. So... And all he had to do was, like, at first Houston Nutt was like, I just want an apology. But now that all this has come out, he's like, no, I expect some compensation. And I was like, oh, I bet you do. Freaking, yeah, there's nobody pettier than Houston Nutt. So watch out for him. And there's been all these rumors.
And he was petty in Arkansas. I don't know. I mean, I remember him at Arkansas. And yeah, it's... No.
Sorry, excuse me. One of the co-stars of The Blind Side, Houston Nutt? Okay.
Yeah, and then what's crazy is, like, the high school football coach of The Blind Side is Hugh Freeze.
Whoa. So,
yeah, and also these other allegations are coming forward from Briarcrest Christian, where he coached the high school in Memphis. One girl said that she was wearing, like, a Grateful Dead t-shirt or something, and he called her into his office and was like, you have to change. And then she was like, okay, I'll go change. And then he was like, no, you have to change in my office.
Oh my God, no way.
And, like, she had to take her, she was, like, trying to hide in, like, a corner of his office, and he said, I'm doing this so I can take the shirt and make sure you don't wear it again. And then, like, there was other girls that said that he was, like, obsessed with, like, how short their skirts were and stuff, and was always, like, watching them. And I was just like, oh, he sounds so creepy. And then also he used religion constantly to recruit. Like, he was always like, oh, I'm such a good Christian. And then he would, like, tweet all these Bible verses. And I remember this is how my dad tried to get me going back to church. He was like, well, Hugh Freeze preaches. And I'm tempted to be like, what now? Was he preaching to those hookers in Tampa?
Could have been.
I'm sure he was reading Bible verses to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what he's doing. He's just trying to lead them to the Lord. And yeah, and all these people, it's so crazy because there's several camps that Ole Miss fans are in right now. There's the people who are like, the fake news and the media is out to get him because he's such a godly man. And I'm like, okay, well, the media didn't make him call a hooker. The media didn't make him commit NCAA violations. I mean, we can say, I think the reason we were scrutinized so much in the first place was because we beat Alabama twice, and Nick Saban does not forgive that. The NCAA does not forgive that, but still, you did it. And he still won't own up to it. Not to the fans, not to the players, which I think he owes them an apology, especially because, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they all transferred. I mean, a bunch of them have sent out tweets like, oh, this is just going to motivate me to work harder. But the fact that you can't go to a bowl game, it doesn't matter if we beat everybody and blow them out of the water, like, that just fucking sucks.
Yeah, I was wondering where the expectation level was because, 2 years ago, Ole Miss is one play away from playing for the SEC title game and basically for a national title game. And the next year, they start with Florida State and have a big lead and blow that. And I remember, like, bowling with friends and, like, they're getting just demolished by Mississippi State. And I was like, what happened to Ole Miss? Like, they had a bunch of talent. I mean, they had – I mean, I know they lost some guys in the NFL, but it was a rough year, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was a rough year, and then we were like, okay, well, we'll come back from this, and then that's when the NCAA stuff, started blowing up, and, it all came from a bunch of Mississippi State people, because they're all petty, because, like I said, they're more worried about what's going on with our school than theirs. I mean, it's Starkville, there's nothing to do there, so I can't really blame them, but yeah, it's been an insane thing, like, and then, like, more crazy shit just keeps happening in the Oxford area in general. So as I was saying, there's like different camps of Ole Miss fans, right? So there's the ones that are, saying, "Oh, the media got him," or "Oh, he's a godly man, and nobody's perfect." And I'm just like, okay, well, that doesn't mean he didn't fuck up. And then there's the people like me who are pissed off, and like, we deserved better, and you let us down because you had to use a school-issued phone to call hookers. I mean, use a burner. I mean, we were paying him how much? Like $7 million a year? You're telling me you couldn't afford another iPhone so you could, give booty calls or whatever? Like, it was so ridiculous. And yeah, and then there's the people that are just like, I knew this was going to happen, which I'm kind of in that camp too, because as we like to say, we are Ole Miss. We managed to fuck up everything. Like, it's like we come so close, and then it all just blows up, and we have to start all back over again, and it sucks. And then, yeah, like I was saying, crazy shit in Oxford. Like today, they found a raccoon in the library.
Oh, okay. Well, raccoons, they just want to get smart and study and read, and I would just very softly say, maybe, just maybe, this is karma for that whole David Cutcliffe thing,
Ooh.
Did we lose Morgan? I think we lost Morgan on that.
Yeah, you did. I'm sorry. My bandwidth is sucking right now. Yeah, it's the NCAA. They're blocking my internet connection. Don't give me the death penalty. But yeah, it's just been like one crazy thing comes out. Like, I remember it was last night when I was reading about those Briarwood Christian allegations, and I was like, just so disgusted, especially because he was like, "Oh, I'm such a nice guy," and it's like, no, you're not. You're creepy. Leave. And then there's been rumors that Les Miles might take the job and that he's very interested. So,
well, he's not doing that. He's not doing that media job. First he was going to do the media job, and now he's not going to do it. So there may be something to that.
I don't think he'd be a good fit necessarily, but it would piss off LSU fans. So
why don't you think it would be a good fit?
Well, I don't know. It's just with recruiting, I don't know how well he could recruit in Oxford because LSU just kind of recruited itself on the name of LSU alone. Like that, if you were a football player in Louisiana, that's where you went.
Yeah. Well, you're better off with a big name coach than a.
Yeah, this guy Matt Luke. It's like he has two gospel writers' names, and I don't know much about him. I mean, he's already had to suspend 2 players for robbing Walmart of cleaning supplies, so I'm sure that's been real fun for him. But yeah, he's been at Ole Miss a long time, and I mean, he seems to be passionate and all that stuff. It's just I don't know if he can coach. But if we lose every game, I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter.
I mean, I saw predictions, and people are pretty sure that 2 things are going to happen. Missouri's going to be in last in the SEC East, and it doesn't sound like Ole Miss is going to do that good either.
Yeah, and then last time, it's crazy because it's like 2 years ago we were beating Alabama. And it's like, what? And then now we're predicted to be last of the SEC West. And, I mean, I don't know. Again, like I said, I would like to see this coach succeed. So, I mean, yeah, it sucks that for this season we have a bowl ban. But I would like for this coach to be successful so that we can at least come back from that and try to somewhat build back the momentum that we had. But, I mean, Hugh Freeze did a lot of damage. And that's not something that we're going to be able to fix overnight.
True. And now, of course, I'm the SEC come lately guy of this crew because I'm Missouri grad, and we weren't even in the SEC when I went there, and we were barely a football program when I was there. Now, the word is that Mississippi is one of the best places to tailgate and game experience.
Oh, it is, for sure.
Have you been able to go to any road games? And what do you think about that? And I know Sharona can probably chime in after that.
So
possibly
when I was a kid, so both my parents actually graduated from Mississippi State, which is pretty hilarious because I have one degree from Ole Miss, and I'm getting my law degree from Ole Miss too. But yeah, so when I was a State fan, my dad would take me to every SEC game, basically on the road, away, everything. I went to the LSU stadium one time, and that was enough. I remember I was like 11, and they were throwing beer cans at me and telling me to go fuck myself, and I was like, "What does that mean?" You know, like, and they killed us. Like the score was like 48-3 or something, and they're like, "Get out of here!" And I'm like, "You won. Why are you angry?" But yeah. So there was some of that. You know, going to Alabama, that kind of thing. But back then, it was like before Saban. I think that the Alabama fans were pretty even for the most part. And I mean, they have been usually, even when they come up to Oxford, because it's like they know they're going to kick everybody's ass, so there's no reason for them to be angry. But since we started beating them, they have been kind of getting more rowdy. But nothing's as bad as when the LSU fans are in town. It gets like I leave my roommate a blank check, and I'm like, "You need to bail me out." You know where to go. But
in Knoxville, that's usually Florida fans because they are usually the worst. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought they just wore jean shorts.
Well, they do wear jorts. There's no question about that. But the hatred's real.
In Tennessee?
Mm-hmm, between Tennessee and Florida? Oh, yeah.
I had no idea it was that bad. Now, I know we made Tim Tebow cry, but that's about all we got on Florida.
Yeah, well, Florida regularly beats Tennessee. So, you know, and that goes back to the Steve Spurrier days. But it's, you know, it is, you know, Tennessee fans hate Bama too. Don't get me wrong, but there's a special hatred between Tennessee and Florida.
Mm-hmm. I didn't really know that. That's surprising to me. But yeah, Florida's just one of those schools. I guess I kind of tend to, you know, kind of forget just because we don't play them that often.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, Tennessee, they've been pretty even. I think that though in the SEC, I think. Well, I will never forget this. When I was the Auburn game, when Laquan Treadwell broke his leg, and it was that gruesome, awful injury. Like he recovered really well from that, obviously, but yeah. So when he broke his leg, I remember there was a girl from Auburn behind me, and she was yelling in my face and saying, "We broke your favorite player's leg." I told her, I said, "You have 10 seconds to leave." I said, "And if I turn around and you are still here, I don't know what's going to happen." And then a bunch of other people obviously heard what she said and started like throwing stuff and like, yeah. So I mean, mostly for as far as Ole Miss games, I've gone to all the bowl games. The Sugar Bowl was my favorite. That was awesome. Old times. But yeah, I also went to the Peach Bowl. That was not so awesome because TCU whipped the hell out of us. And I was intoxicated at the time, and they started chanting their I don't know if y'all are familiar with the TCU chant, but it's like that weird like lickety lickety wazoo or like whatever, and I didn't know what that was, and they were started raising these ginormous flags, and I was just like, what are they doing over there? I said, are they trying to summon the devil? Aren't they a Christian school? I was like, what's going on? And it was just, that was the worst bowl game I think I'd been to in a long time. But yeah, the Sugar Bowl, as far as away games, that tops my experience.
I know at this point I take the Independence Bowl at Missouri. I've had, done okay recently, but yeah, it's sad. I mean, it's the only thing about Missouri being relatively new to the conference is like they don't really have the rivalry. Like Arkansas, I think they're getting there because they started with Texas A&M, and they were just the new guys. And it was great because Kevin Sumlin would always start 6-0, and everybody would kiss his butt, and by the end of the year it'd be 8-4, and like Missouri would somehow find a way to beat them. Well, not the year Manziel was there. Damn you, Manziel. But yeah, it's not what. I don't know. Something to be said about Johnny Manziel and Tebow being just like college legends, and then just like nothing in the NFL.
Yeah.
And Tebow's like what in like. So he got the high A in baseball. He's like 29, dudes. He should be killing high A.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Every once in a while, I was like, he hit a home run. I'm like, okay, I got you.
He had that SEC network gig for a while, though. I mean, I didn't feel too bad for him.
That. I mean,
he kind of, I think he might. To. I don't know if he, I mean, I guess it would work out. I didn't know if it interfered with like his training or whatever, but does Mizzou have as much as the SEC like tailgating atmosphere? Because I know down here we'll dress up for football games. We'll have these, I mean, I'm sure you've seen pictures of like the Grove and
the Grove. I was going to ask you about the Grove.
Yes, the Grove is amazing. It is. I remember my first time there. I saw this ginormous tent, and it had like a chandelier in it, and like the linens and all stuff. And I was like, "Damn!" Like it looked like somebody was gonna get married in there. Like people go all out. They go crazy, and people get very competitive about their spots. And they used to be, if you were a student, you could make some good money just laying in the grass on Friday afternoon. And you could take your books out there and study, because then when they would show up, when you were allowed to set up their tent, your spot would be saved. And they don't allow that anymore. They kick everybody out. And then it's like the Hunger Games. So, but most people are respectful of, I know this is so-and-so spot, and they'll, work it out and be nice about it. But I remember when College Game Day came, when we played Alabama, and a bunch of the alumni got really upset because their stage took up like where they usually put up their tents.
Oh,
I remember the athletic director, Ross Bjork, was like, "I am concerned," which is, fancy for "I don't care." So yeah, the Grove is really awesome. Like it's something I think that every college football fan should experience, just because it's so different from every other place, and it really is the #1 tailgating spot in the country, I believe. But yeah, I didn't know if Mizzou had that same kind of, or they're trying to transition to that, or.
Well, I went to Missouri all 4 years. They went 3-8, and one year they went 3-8-1, and they tied Hawaii. So that's what it was. It was come to the game and leave at halftime and go home and play Sega Channel, because they were going to lose, and if they were going to win, they were beating someone really crappy. But it's definitely picked up, especially the 2 SEC title game appearances they have, which are well, anyway, more than other people on this show.
Yeah, people leave at halftime here too, though, but it's usually because they're too drunk.
Too drunk.
And you'll see that too. People that sneak in the stuff in the stadium, which is always hilarious. I remember this man in front of me. He said, "Honey, hand me my eye drops," and she hands him a bottle of contact solution. And he just starts pouring it in his mouth, and it was just brown, and you could just smell bourbon everywhere. And if they get mad at the refs, all of a sudden I'll see whiskey bottles just appear out of nowhere. Oh. So yeah, one game somebody threw a red stiletto on the end zone.
That's a terrible waste of a nice shoe.
Well, I mean, everybody's drinking so much before the game. I almost assumed that the whole blackout for drinking during the game was just for people to sober up before the post game. But my cousin's like really skinny, so he can fit like, a plastic bottle, or actually they do Ziploc bags they tape to like their back. So they buy like
the way to go. I don't know why people. They buy like
a Diet Coke or something, and they just pour like Maker's Mark in there. It's like, we're not done. Yeah. We're continuing, and it's even better now because they have all those great like vans and stuff. They have like the TVs on the side, and they have like the cartoons for the kids in there, and it's like something for everybody. So it's really an event. I mean, when I went to Missouri for like homecoming, I don't know how many years after I graduated. It was like, wait, it's sold out? Because Missouri, they're bigger than Vandy. I don't know if they're bigger than anybody else in the conference. They have like 65,000. That's like NFL size stadium, which is nothing in the SEC.
They have a nice basketball following, though. I mean, but you don't tailgate for basketball.
Yeah, they actually were good in basketball, and apparently they're good now because they got the coach whose son is like one of the top players in the country. So. But you can turn around basketball a lot quicker. You just need a couple players. In football, you need,
that's true.
Salary cap's going to be a little bit bigger for that sort of thing.
Yeah. And
thanks to Ole Miss, the numbers have gone up. Oh. Thanks to Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, and it's just like right now, I don't know how much. I remember one girl, I think she reached out to Lane Kiffin. And it was like, "Hey, come coach at Ole Miss." And he was like, "Girl, you're silly. Like, I wouldn't touch that school with a 10-foot pole right now." And I'm like, I think that's what everybody feels, because you're going to have to deal with all these NCAA violations. You're going to have to deal with this bowl ban. You're going to have to deal with, disgraced coach. And, yeah, it's just it's not going to be fun. I mean, it's still an SEC coaching job.
That is hilarious that Lane fucking Kiffin would do that, because he put us in the same situation almost.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Yeah, they don't like the Lane train so much in Tennessee. He was there for
Listen, he and Ed Ogeron were using university-issued phones to call recruits to pike our recruits. They should have called hookers.
Yeah.
I know, but we're in trouble. They're not.
We were almost, listen, we were there. We were right there. We were very, very, very lucky that Lane Kiffin and Ed Ogeron did not fuck us over worse than they did.
Yeah, I mean.
And wait, isn't Ogeron the guy at LSU? I mean, he's had
Yes!
so many like
now.
sketchy situations since
Yeah,
then.
He is a sketchy motherfucker.
He's so shady. Like, he's just. I mean, he's just like I imagine him as like a mafia figure, like a used car salesman, basically.
Hell yeah, used car salesman. That's what he is.
Yeah, we hate him at Ole Miss too.
Fuck him.
Yeah, fuck Ed Ogeron.
I do want to say before I get to a subject that I actually didn't put on my notes because I love to do that. The Going for Two fantasy leagues are coming back. So the auction league, the redraft league, and I need to get Don his trophy because Don won. He wants his bleeping trophy, and he'll get his bleeping trophy.
I know where you can put your trophy, Don.
Now, I know, Morgan, you're not really into fantasy sports, but we like to do this because basically we do the draft live on the show and we drink a lot. So that's really what happens.
Yes, we do.
That sounds fun. Like, I can't keep up with it because I would just be like, oh shit, my player has a bye week, or oh my god, this one has a hamstring injury. Like, I would just forget because I'm the most forgetful person. I don't see how people do fantasy baseball. Like, that sounds exhausting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It really is. Now, speaking of drinking, this is your shot, Sharona. Remember, like, imagine talking to, like, yourself at a younger age. Like, do you have any advice for Morgan, the aspiring lawyer, for someone who's gone through law school and has, well, possibly gone past it?
Well, I've definitely gone past it. I think everybody's path is their own. And law school I'll tell Morgan, what year are you in now, Morgan?
I'm about to start my third.
Okay. I remember the moment that I realized law school had fucked my brain up. I was in my first year of law school. It was Thanksgiving holiday. I was traveling home to visit the family. We had a few days off. And I was listening to the radio, and speaking of used car salesman, a car ad came on, making a lot of fancy dancy promises, and I spent literally like 30 minutes trying to figure out if I could enforce that was an enforceable agreement. I mean, it was because the promises were really amazing, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to be the same. It does change the way you think.
I've noticed that.
And that's a good and a bad thing, depending on how you manage that. But with a law degree, there's a lot of things that you can do. And so, I think that it's certainly if Morgan's going to practice, there's, to borrow a line from Philadelphia, when you get to see true justice get done, it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing feeling. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I noticed that it messed my brain up too because I've taken some intellectual property classes, and now I look at works of art and I'm like, is that transformative? Is that violating the copyright? Or like fan fiction and things like that? And my friends will be like, literally nobody cares about this except for you.
Yeah.
You're the only person who cares about this.
Yeah, so, I understand that.
My brain too, yeah. And I'm just like, I'll stop talking forever. Continue, but
no, you should. This just applies to
law student. Well, actually, now he's a graduate, so he gets it. But he's in a completely different area of law from me. He does corporate tax.
Okay.
So yeah, completely different realm from me. I don't do math, but people would go to jail if I became a tax attorney, and not even on purpose. So he gets it, but it's still, because we're in different worlds, it's still like I feel like a weirdo sometimes. But thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm in my third year, so it's kind of too late to turn back now. But
you got the momentum.
Yeah, I do.
we went so much on the Game of Thrones and the Ole Miss football. I mean, SEC football talk is just fascinating, of course, now that I can actually pretend I'm at the kids' table still, but that's all right. I'm still there. You know, I'm eating. I'm all good. Sharona, you really want to talk about, so the Baltimore Ravens were the latest team to flirt with one Colin Kaepernick. And
this situation is fascinating to me.
I want to hear about this
for him.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
Well, you know, as with a lot of things, and you know, we've kind of danced around some of these issues throughout this show. I just, you know, separating fact from fiction can be difficult a lot of times because, and we see this not just in sports, but in a lot of different areas now. There are a lot of leaked things. And this whole Ravens thing, whether they legitimately have an interest in Colin Kaepernick or not, and if they don't, why they don't, and all of that. And they've certainly signed some quarterbacks that I've never fucking heard of before the last couple of days. And so it's pretty interesting. Teams are running out of ways to say they don't have room on their rosters for Colin when they keep signing no-name guys that don't seem to pan out. But here's my thing. I'm not sure if the Ravens owner, Steve Biscotti, I think is his name, or Ozzie Newsome, whether they're playing good cop, bad cop, to try to figure out where their fan base is on this. And obviously a lot of their fans did speak up and said they didn't want Colin Kaepernick on their team, which is curious to me.
But their players do. Right?
Yeah, the players. Yeah, I mean the players do. It's not. It's curious because, and this is a problem not just in sports, but everywhere. Thinking is hard for a lot of Americans these days, and instead of focusing on, you know, maybe what Colin Kaepernick was concerned about, they want to focus on, you know, the mechanism through which he did it. They weren't mad at the players or Titans players who did the Black Power sign. They stood up for you know, the anthem and all that and did the Black Power sign, but they, you know, fans were okay with that because we get, I think, fixated in a lot of ways on certain things. But I'm curious. I would be really curious to know what's going on with the Ravens, because my sense was, and I really do think that the owner learned from the Ray Rice thing, and they're kind of in a precarious situation. You have to understand that they fucked up the Ray Rice thing royally, and they made their fans mad, and, you know, and their business, it's a business, you know, and he's a businessman, and they'd be crazy not to listen to their fans, you know. I mean, they would. If I were advising them from a, you know, just a practical standpoint, you have to listen, you know, but you also have to do the principled and the right thing, and, you know, and you want to win football games too. And so I don't know. We live in interesting times. I'm not sure that I'm just not sure that we know the whole story there. And I'm not sure, but that the story that we're being given isn't being given to just gauge reaction.
Yeah, I think that might be the case. But then also, I mean, I guess it will come down to if the fans care more about their team and being a Ravens fan and winning games and being competitive, or if they care that some dude kneeled during the national anthem. Like, you know, they're going to have to pick their ditch to die in. And I wonder if, but it's surprising to me that a lot of Baltimore fans would have rejected that, just knowing, you know, the demographics and things like that.
Well, that they embrace Ray Rice, but they wouldn't embrace Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, that's so strange to me.
Very curious.
To go back.
I mean, did I say Ray Rice? I meant Ray Lewis.
But of course, the part that Morgan won't get is that I was actually excited to see Colin Kaepernick go from no interest in the NFL to the Colts and the Ravens doing like a bidding war for him because Andrew Luck's injured and Sharona just drafted him really high in one of our leagues.
I did. It's sad.
Oh, no.
Mr. Injured Back. See, that's another thing.
Zach loves to remind me about this, by the way.
I taunt, and yet she finished ahead of me, I think, in most of our leagues. I paid off in beer, though, Dragon's Milk. So
Don has my trophy. I'm still mad.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we ran into the Jennifer Eakins buzzsaw in the first round of the playoffs. So,
yeah.
We got to get the rematch going, definitely. So, yeah, I had to mention that. And I think we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago. And I really love the Edge of Sports podcast. And they were actually talking with some women who are covering the Seattle Storm of the WNBA. And they had a Planned Parenthood night. And what I liked about that was the fact that the Seattle men's team was like, fuck you, Seattle, taking the money and run, going to Oklahoma City. And the women's team was going to move, but they found local people to buy the team. And then they got behind this Planned Parenthood event. And actually players from both teams playing in the game were talking before the event, and players and the teams. It was really cool to see the team kind of react to the local people and the fans. And I know left-wing stuff doesn't seem to get a lot of traction these days, especially in sports for some reason. But in that case, in Seattle, they had it was a little bit less friction.
It's the same thing. It's the not thinking. It's the we're not a nation of thinkers. And it's very concerning to me because people hear and think Planned Parenthood and they think it's only about abortion when it's about health care. I mean, Planned Parenthood provides a ton of healthcare related services to women, to lower income women. And, it's dumb. You should want Planned Parenthood to be in business and to be able to provide birth control because these same people don't want to support these kids. They pretend to be pro-life, but, they're stupid. They don't think. They're not thinkers through.
Yeah, Mississippi's okay, though.
Oh, my gosh. We're the worst.
They got kind of a third of an abortion clinic in the whole state, right? There's one, but it's...
We have one left in Jackson. I used to work across the street from it at a restaurant called Roosters. I would go there and work the lunches, and then I'd go to my other restaurant and work nights. And I remember I would have to chase out these pro-life protesters out of my restaurant while I'm trying to sell fried chicken plates, and I'm just like, this is not in my freaking job description. And I remember they came up to my car and started beating on it and being like, come pray with us. And I was like, how about you get your hands out of my fucking uterus? And they all looked at me like,
what's that?
I think we lost Morgan again.
That was the devil.
Slight pause. Wait, still there? Sort of. Like the smile. I'm still here. Yeah, the fact that I think Mississippi actually was ahead of Georgia as the second to last state in the country to allow direct sales to at breweries, which is a totally different subject, but hey, that's life. Although I see Morgan, she's got the mute button on.
Oh, so. Shit. Okay.
You never do this. Come on, you're professional podcasters. You do this all the time. What's going on?
We're live. That's the problem. But we have managed to kind of fuck that up because now breweries are having problems with getting their with doing the brewery sales and distribution at the same time because it kind of came so suddenly and no one really had a plan for it. So yeah, it's all kinds of messed up. I remember I'm kind of scared to buy Yellowbush Brewery beer now because they have a carbon dioxide problem that they haven't really been able to pay attention to because of this whole, on-site sale thing that they're trying to push out so quickly. And I don't know if it's not paying attention to product or what, but the last few have been so full of carbon dioxide, the beer will explode.
No way.
Yeah, I'll open it and it won't be shaken or anything. And this has happened from I was at one of my professor's houses and then all of a sudden foam starts erupting out of my beer bottle and I'm just like, great, I look like an idiot. And he was like, no, they've been having this problem. It's been happening to me too. And I was like, I had a bad batch last time, but I thought it was just a freak thing, But yeah, I mean, hopefully they'll fix it, but damn. Yeah, Mississippi's pretty backwards. And I mean, Oxford's a weird place in Mississippi. and that it's sort of, you have it's a college town, so, you'll have your more liberal professors and things like that, and also more liberal students. But with my law school, it's very interesting because we have a very liberal faculty, but an overwhelming conservative student body, which is very strange. And well, one of the reasons is our token conservative, as I call him, he is on the admissions board. So I think that might have something to do with it. But also, my granddaddy was a lawyer and my daddy was a lawyer. You get those types. But yeah, it's weird. But yeah, I was glad to see that the Seattle Storm did this Planned Parenthood thing, because I saw that it actually got the WNBA like in the news. And I know that, people always make jokes about the WNBA because lol, women's sports, and and yeah, so I was glad to see them get attention. And I do think it does speak to the local area that I'm actually going there in about 4 days. I'm heading out to Seattle. But
Seattle's a great city.
I used to live there, and I ended up here.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. So where did you grow up?
That's a beer mecca too, by the way. You'll know. You'll be there. You'll be okay.
I'm an Air Force brat, so I used to live in Iceland. I've lived in DC. I've lived in Seattle. I've lived a lot of different places, but my dad was from Mississippi, and his mother still lives here, so he insisted that we move back here. Gotcha. And I've been stuck here for the past 18 years.
Well, that's kind of how we were too. Yeah, interesting. How old were you when you were in Iceland?
I was about 4 or 5. I went back this past summer because I did a study abroad with Downing College at Cambridge, and so on my way over, I just stopped in and hung out, and then went to England. But so that was awesome. It was nice to be out of Mississippi for the summer. But yeah, I was really glad to see this from Seattle Storm and how they are interacting with their fans and trying to get their fan base motivated. And I remember when we lived in Seattle, my dad had like a Seattle Sonics cap and all that, and and I mean, it's always a bad feeling when a sports team takes some money and runs. It's like the Colts situation. The Brooklyn Dodgers. Like, if you go into Brooklyn and talk about the Dodgers, like, you'll get your ass kicked, still to this day. So, yeah, it's good to see that they're like, no, we're going to stay here, and we're also going to react to you and, support causes that you like. So, and I was glad to see a liberal stance being taken in sports, because I feel like so much of it, especially being in a Southeastern Conference, it's like, America, this kind of like more conservative driven thing. So it's nice to see a balance to that.
Well, the players are definitely more prone to protest and it being embraced, and it seems like in the NBA, like the commissioner has created that kind of system, and I guess the WNBA can be like that as well. So do you have a countdown, Morgan, to like graduation day, and have you already started like deciding where you're going to go?
The thing is, so my boyfriend, who's actually moving in with me this week, so that's been exciting. But he got a job, or he doesn't have a job for sure yet. It's one of those things where he got an internship, and then they extended it, and then they said, we're going to give you an offer, but they're a firm with multiple branches, so they have to get approval from like the headquarters kind of thing. So to put it in their fiscal year. It's all budget stuff. I don't get it, but whatever. So he's got that, and that's in Memphis. And a lot of jobs are in Memphis right now because a lot of millennials, it's an interesting thing, a lot of millennials are going to these southern cities. A lot of, especially progressive millennials, which I find interesting, such as Nashville. Nashville is exploding right now. Yeah, it's like I was there and it was crazy how much it had grown and just the new stuff they had. And then, so I'm going to go to Memphis, and hopefully I'll be able to move somewhere else later because Memphis isn't exactly the biggest step up from Mississippi. It's not New York or LA or anything like that, but I mean, I'll be in a city, and so I feel like I'll be more in my element, but that looks like it's in the cards right now, and there's jobs there. There's no jobs in Mississippi unless you're cousins of the governor. So that's just how it is down here, especially in law, and especially if you're a woman.
Yeah, I think we haven't officially had a guest on the show, Mississippi, so we get to cover that. We don't even really talk about the SEC football that much, I'm sure Sharona's dying to talk about that more. we'll get to that. So we've passed an hour like big time. So Morgan Turb, what are your other shows you're on? What's happening there? Tell
All right.
where people can track you down and talk about Mississippi football and perhaps other subjects.
All right. Well, if you want to see my continuous saltiness about the state of affairs here at Ole Miss, you can follow me on Twitter at Mostring. That's Mostring. You can also friend me on Facebook, Morgan L. Stringer. Just message me and let me know where you found me and that you're not some creepy stalker. And you can also catch me on the Bi Skeptical podcast of Trav Mamone that comes out about every 2 weeks on Stitcher, iTunes, and Spreaker. And you can also catch me on Beyond the Trailer Park. We are live on YouTube at 6:30 Central every Monday. And then if you can't make the live show, we're also on iTunes and Spreaker and Stitcher.
You guys starting earlier now because
we were having problems with the guests being like, "Oh my God, I'm so tired,"
It was like, "Oh, by the way, we start at 9:30 on Monday." I'm like, "What?" And then okay. That's good. I like that.
A bit nuts. Yeah, it was getting a bit nuts, and I was getting tired, and I have work the next morning, so yeah, this works so much better for a lot of people, and it works better for our guests. So we changed the time, and we're still getting used to it, but it's been good so far.
Excellent. And Sharona, what's happening with you? Are you still hiatusing?
I'm still hiatusing on Bat Talk, the Bat Talk podcast, but we are getting ready to drop our first Inside the Pylon Fantasy podcast. Our show is called Fantasy Frequency, and it'll feature the 4 fantasy writers there, which I am one. And it looks like I'm going to be also this next season covering the NFC South and the AFC South. So I'm tossing around ideas in my brain about what I'm going to do there. I want to do something a little different, not, your traditional stuff. And we're an analytics kind of website. And so you're not going to get game day previews at, you're going to get analytical stuff, not newsy stuff. So that's it.
Watch your asses, RotoViz. Good to know. So you can, I would occasionally write on Zach on Sports, although it's been a while. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, when I lost my cat, is the last time I wrote on there. So I probably should do some more beer reviews as we get closer to football season. It's happening. It's getting there. It's real. It's amazing. Anything can happen except for Ole Miss going to a bowl game.
You had to.
Yeah, well,
it's so painful. It's so painful. It's like I want it, but then I'm like, can we not? Can we just skip this year?
It's a little bit the quick the SEC schedule is a little sad because I think Missouri gets to go to Mississippi once every 12 years because if you're not on that rotation, the teams you play in the other division, it is every 12 years you play there. Every 6 years you play them at home. Every 6 years you play them away. I think Missouri's playing Auburn for the first time ever this year. Well, sorry, second time since they got their ass handed to them.
I'm sorry,
but that's all right. That's okay. Yeah, who wants a good Auburn? I've been there. It's not bad. It's all right. We got Zach_Law, and you think of this whole what the hell is this Zacrilege cast thing all about? Well, it's at Zacrilege. Go to Twitter, ZACHRILEGE. I can spell it after 2 beers, so can you. So thanks, everybody, for being on, especially Morgan for talking SEC football and not shedding a tear, and Sharona for being on and actually drinking wine just to fit in, and because it's delicious.
I'm such a little joiner.
I know.
Peer pressure.
That's right.
And we will be getting those leagues going if anybody happens to be listening and is interested. Well, we're not technically full yet, but we do want to get these going probably late August-ish. And it is fun. The chatting and the nonstop, making fun of each other. That's what it's really about.
That's right.
So thanks, everybody, for listening / watching. Hi, Don. We'll be drinking together soon. And good night and kiss my grits.